place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, January 17th, 2024, and this is episode 993 of Living Free in Tennessee, and it all rhymes. Okay, guys, well, we're starting Homestead Happenings a little late today because about half an hour, 45 minutes before the show was scheduled, Tactical mentioned that one of our sheep was giving birth, and it turned out to be something where I got to help with the birth. He'll be leaving halfway through the show to check on it, right, Nighthawk?
Yes.
Nighthawk's going to be off camera.
I probably should move in camera.
You can move in camera until Tactical comes or whatever. But it was, sometimes births happen when births happen, and that's all you can do. So we live streamed from the pasture.
Wait a minute. You mean Mother Nature doesn't follow a schedule?
I'm very happy that Mother Nature didn't do this on Tuesday night when it's going to be 11 degrees.
Oh, you still got one more ready to give birth, right?
Well, there's one more beyond the one that we think is also going to give birth today or tomorrow.
Oh, so Tuesday could still totally
Tuesday
happen.
Could suck, yeah. But
how far along she is, though.
Yeah. So you guys are going to have to pass a mic back and forth. Right now, Nighthawk's wearing it because you were not here for the start of the show. Just saying. And there's a sad state of affairs in the Living Free in Tennessee mug right now. I don't know if you can see that. It's empty. There's no coffee in there. Very sad. Anyway, today we're going to talk about lambing on the farm, which was originally on today's show. I just didn't know that we were going to also live stream a birth before we went live for the regular show. Cold swimming and other things going on in the homestead. Before we jump into that, I do want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and it is Creating Your Solar Blueprint with Sean Mills, which is a webinar happening this Sunday. It's $35 for non-members. If you're a member of Living Free in Tennessee, it's included. And that is going to be live at 3 p.m. Sunday with Sean from Hack My Solar. He's going to talk about how to plan for solar, how to implement solar, and take any questions you have. And Sean is just one of the best people I know at explaining how solar works to the normal person like you and me. So check it out, livingfreeintennessee.com. I also want to thank two sponsors today. Our first sponsor is Discount Mylar Bags. DiscountMylarBags.com is their website, and they, sell Mylar bags and other food storage options, as well as food preservation things like Harvest Right freeze dryers, that sort of thing. But if you want to just learn more about storing food and how long it stores and strategies for how you should size your bags, go over to Discount Mylar Bags. On the right side, Toby's put together his thoughts on that in some blog posts. And he's just really good at sourcing things in bulk and passing on the savings to you. Check them out at discountmylarbags.com. Our second sponsor of today's show is John Pugliano of the Wealth Studying Podcast. John's been supporting the show since the moment we launched, just like Toby from Discount Mylar Bags has. And he has a really cool website, but he also has a very cool podcast. It's about 15 minutes an episode. He usually goes once a week, but he doesn't go every week. So sometimes he's like, I got nothing to say, so I'm not doing my podcast. But he talks about how he's making investment decisions. Check that out at thewealthstudyingpodcast.com. And with that, we are going to go straight into our first topic of today's show, which was all about my failed chicken dinner. But for those of you who were not on the live from the pasture, that's what the coffee maker sounds like, by the way. Hello, Sarah. The sheep are doing well. Tactical or not, probably Tactical is going to bail about halfway through the show to double check on them. One of them's not latching well. The first one that was born is not latching well. So Tactical went out to the pasture this morning, and we had sheep born. And one of them was a little slow. And we almost intervened, and then it latched on, and we decided to give it time. So then he checked on him once while we were showing base camp to a potential renter. And then when she went home, I started getting ready for the show because it was time for the show. And then he was like, hey, Amy's giving birth. And so I told you guys I'd be late and had somebody share that on social because I wanted to be there just to make sure everybody was latching and getting their milk. And then Tactical had the brainy idea to bring the webcam over to go live from the pasture. So Amy's birth was not her typical easy birth, but it wasn't terrible. Both sheep were in the right position. One of them almost had its head go back though. And we helped birth that second one. And then the first one that was born is an idiot and can't figure out that the nipple is lower than his head. And if you put his mouth right on the nipple, he's like, I don't know. So he's gotten some milk, we think, but I'm not 100% sure. So Tactical is going to go back and check at about 2:30, which is in about 20 minutes. And right now they're both warm, so I'm not worried about hypothermia. They're in the sun, they're dry, so that's all good. And then, of course, Brunhilde is actually showing signs like she might think she's pregnant, which her whole pregnancy, she's been in denial about her pregnancy. I got some really good video this morning of her, how wide she really is. She's the widest of all the sheep right now. And the one who gave birth, I thought there might be 3 in there because she was so big. No, her first ram he was just a big boy. He's got a big head. He's a big boy. I think that's what made the birth a little bit hard, is his head was so big. But she's a champion mom and she's doing great. She let us give her some sheep treats. And yeah, so that's all looking good. So we have 4 more sheep born. This might be a great time to mention, if you want lamb in October, we are sending 10 lambs to the processor and we are taking deposits at livingfreeintennessee.com. Yeah, the pictures of the cute babies, those are the ones. It's like the weird part about farming because you're like, I love you, you're so cute. Okay, butcher. That's the way we're going to go. Anything else about lambing or sheep you want to say, Tactical? And if you want to say something, you need to say it into the mic that's over here.
Yeah, I mean, Bruni's been like this the whole time with, like, she just will act like there's nothing going on, and then all of a sudden she'll give birth. I was actually expecting twins the last time she did, and she just had the one.
She had one really big ram.
Yeah.
He's the ram that's in the pasture now.
Yeah, and he's bigger than everybody else that was born 2 to 3 weeks before him.
Yeah. Well, he also had the benefit of 100% of mom's milk.
Yeah.
So he wasn't sharing. Yeah. I noticed the triplets, like one of the triplets grew a lot slower than everybody else.
Yeah. And it's also the other thing I'd throw in. It's always the time that you're like, I'm going to run over to the pasture
real quick,
5 minutes,
real quick,
possibly just do a drive by, and then you're there for an hour, 2 hours.
Did you leave the birthing kit over there?
No.
Okay.
Everything.
I left the collars in the barn.
Yeah.
Okay. We might as well just have the gloves over there for this because we got one more and then hopefully a break until the next ones come.
I left everything on my 4-wheeler, so if we need it again today, it's still there.
Okay, perfect. So yesterday we had our first in the 4-week series, the My 3 Things Challenge series, which is a small group webinar series that's sold out because it's full now. And every time I have an evening webinar like that, a lot of my day is spent like making sure I have my stuff in order for it, testing the tech. I was using a shared dry erase board for this one for the first time as a facilitator. So I wanted to play with the chalkboard online and all of those things. And so I had planned a chicken for dinner because I can just throw it in the oven. It takes almost no time to prep, bake it, take it out. And I had it like timed so I could eat at 5. It reached temperature and it was an American breast. And what I didn't realize, and I should label my bags better, is it was probably a too old male American breast. So tough as nails is an understatement on that particular chicken. So I roasted it. It was up to temp. I put the probe in several places to check. I'm like, sweet, it's 5 o'clock. I get to eat food before the webinar at 6 o'clock, which is when we usually eat. Hey, Tactical, how was that bird? And you have to speak into the mic.
I wouldn't even describe that as chewy.
Yeah,
it was just like literally took both hands to pull a leg off. Like when I say pull, I mean pull and twist.
Yeah, so we both took a few bites And then I was like, I don't have time to cook something else for dinner before the webinar. So my backup, I was like, so my idea with this tactical is this now becomes chicken stew. And we put it back in my Dutch oven and put it on the stove with some water in it. And for dinner last night, we had summer sausage sliced up and cheese. And I happened to have from Anton's House of Biltong a bag of biltong. And it was Angus biltong. And I pulled that out and I'm like, this is why I've kept this one bag. I thought I was going to bring it with me on the plane next week when I go help mom with her knee replacement. But I had this one bag of Anton's left. And I was like, that's what's for dinner. And that is what we ate for dinner. How happy were you with the backup planned dinner that we had last night?
I mean, it was fine.
What do you think of Anton's House of Biltong? Biltong.
It's good.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
So I was on his website. I'm like, maybe I should ship some of that. The Doers sausage, so delicious. I may ship a pound of that to mom's house if I can get it there in time. So we'll see. So that was our dinner last night, and then I got done. What?
So with this chicken you're talking about, because I wasn't invited down for it. Is this was more tough than that other batch of chicken that you forgot to go through the rigor mortis that we ate for how many months?
It was as tough or a little bit more tough.
Ah.
Yeah, he probably got a good workout in, would be my guess. So then I simmered it all night on the stove, and it already had, like onions in there and whatnot. So this morning, that's what we had for breakfast. Was chicken soup. If you want some, it's in the fridge.
Yeah.
Are you mad you weren't invited to dinner last night?
No. Is it much more tender now?
Yeah.
After
it's
letting it simmer all night?
Yeah. So I really like the American breast chicken. But if you don't harvest them by about 12 weeks, they're like any other yard bird. And it's coq au vin or stew or ground up into sausage, or that's your plan. And I do have the American breast labeled differently than the Cornish cross. But I've been like, all of that were processed last year, June latest. So, and some of them were processed the June before, and I'm still eating through them. So I've been eating a chicken a week anyway, just because now chicken has started tasting good to me again, because for a long time it didn't taste good. And now it's tasting good again. And so I'm like, okay, once a week a chicken until we're down, and then we can decide if we want to raise chickens again this year. But I was pretty happy buying my chickens from Hofgrid Homestead, who do a really good job of pasture raising their birds. They're out of, it's Walling, Tennessee, I think, or Waverly, out that direction.
The wrong side of Nashville.
Anyway, it's on my way to special operations equipment. I literally drive by her farm. So she produces such a good bird that I have decided that it was worth me just buying them from her and processing them here. And she makes me a decent deal on them, so she doesn't have to process them, right? And then we do a class here every year with those chickens, and we're not dragging chicken tractors around because part of our regenerative approach here does not involve moving chicken tractors around at this time. Will it happen again? Maybe, but not at this time.
No complaints to not moving chicken tractors around.
Yeah. I mean, if I liked chicken better, it would be a different thing. But I may bring in some more yard birds next year. We're doing a bit of a livestock reset right now, just as far as the chickens go. But I do like mixing the chickens with the duck because we do the deep litter system, and the chickens scratch in the deep litter, and the ducks tamp it down with their flat little webbed feet, which is harder. So that is fun. Hello, Hacks for the Homesteader and Beth Emily. And I already said hi to Kiri. Or no, I didn't say hi to Kiri. I said hi to Sarah. Hi, Sarah. And I'm totally going to sneeze on this show at some point. Great. Okay. Prepper Pantry progress. That was my sneeze. I held it in so it wasn't on the audio. We're going down to pretty cold next week, and I've had a hard time keeping the prepper pantry above freezing at 18 degrees outside. We're going down to 11 is the prediction right now. He thinks it's 6. And it's because my house roof comes down and then the prepper pantry comes off, and there's like this opening to the attic right now because we've been redoing everything in there. And it's just air going through there. So at a minimum today, that will be filled in with insulation. But Ryan Steva, who is the Homestead consultant, is in there right now putting up insulation and caulking holes in the, like between the lumber and the cinder block, and getting ready to put insulation up there as well as in the ceiling, doing a little bit more of the electrical wiring that we want done in there. So I'm pretty stoked to see that project move forward, because eventually I'd like to put my stuff away, and that's where it needs to go. So if Ryan walks through in the background, that's why. Like, this is one of those days. It's Friday's Homestead Day here, and it can mean that multiple people are through my house today, right? We've already had one community member who's nameless right now because I don't have her permission to say. And then Nighthawk's coming through from next door because he's working on projects. He may pop in on Homestead Happenings for a while because he's off on Fridays, which you're welcome to.
Yeah, right now I'm working 4/12, so Monday through Thursday, and I have a 3-day weekend.
Yep.
I'm not complaining about the 3-day weekend.
Jack calls it F off Friday.
Yeah, the 12-hour days, the rest of the week, they get kind of long, but I got 3 days off at the end of the week, so it's worthwhile trade-off in my view.
Yeah, I think a 12-hour, like 4 12-hour days is exhausting, but
yes,
for that investment of hard concentration over 4 days, you get an extra day to move your life forward. If what you're doing is earning money to pay for your bills and then looking at other ways to build the life you want. So I think that's kind of cool. Pack rat. Yeah, hopefully Steve will walk through at some point, but he looked pretty focused because I accidentally sent him all over the place today. So ice is melting here. It's not melted all the way. It's mostly melted. And for those of you who live in the north, you know what you guys call this mud season. But the issue here is that when ice melts and then more ice comes and then ice melts and then more ice comes, it can cause a lot of damage. So Tactical, tell us what you're doing to avoid mud damage, because if we tamp it all down while it's muddy, then it's harder for things to grow back that are growing back. So what do you got going on for that?
Well, I mean, depends on what you're talking about. There's a spot that's a path in between here and the cabin that's going to end up compacted regardless.
That's a pathway.
Kind of is.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with, there's a spot going into the pasture. There's only 2 ways to get a 4-wheeler into that pasture, literally. And so it's just kind of a deal where, yes, there's going to be this tore up section going around the barn. And right now that is a absolute mud slop right now because the sheep were in there. And so the whole thing, not just, the 4-foot wide path that I normally take on the 4-wheeler, but everything over there from the sheep going back and forth is just completely destroyed. Now, most of that will recover fine in the spring once everything starts growing again. But for the time being, it's just like I avoid going through that if possible.
Yeah. So my strategy on this is you have 2 things going on when there's mud like this. One, if you rotate the animals fast enough, they don't rip stuff up and compact the soil. Hello, Food Forest Permaculture. Welcome to the live stream. And the other one is places where I know I'm just going to have to go. I try to go in the same place over and over and over, which when the ground is drier, I can move around and then there's not as much problem. But like on some of those 4-wheeler paths or footpath down to the swim spa, I'm going approximately the same place because it will compact in a smaller area. So I'm like concentrating the damage basically. But with the sheep, we have to be careful of how long they stay, even on the current paddock they're on. We left them on that last paddock a little longer because they were giving birth and it was icy.
Yeah.
So they still have access to a different part of the barn from a different paddock. And I'm really hoping Bruni does, in fact, give birth today so that we can move them up one by, 7 days after yesterday
Yeah.
at the latest. And, it's just keeping an eye on it. When we had pigs, they tore stuff up so fast from a creating mud standpoint that I ended up just putting them in one pasture until they moved out, because we didn't have the capacity or the amount of land they were going to need to be able to rotate through without tearing it up too much. And that's why we don't have pigs here right now. Like, I could have smaller pigs as part of the system, but we were like, there just wasn't enough based on the damage they did. Do you have? Yeah, well, you got to say it into the mic if you're going to say a thing. Yeah.
Or the labor to necessarily rotate them enough to avoid the damage.
Yeah, so he says, or the labor. If we had put the kind of sort of permanent electric wire in that Tactical's been putting at the other pasture where the sheep are, we could actually set up the paddocks just fine. That's what Joel Salatin has at his place. And when I saw that, I was like, that makes more sense than stringing wire by myself or by himself every 2 days to move the pigs. But they basically would need to move every day or every 2 days here based on what we have, or they just tear it up.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's enough space here for them to have something grow back in their first paddock by the time they rotate through all the rest of them.
So how was loading the rams this time to go to the processor? Tell us that story.
It actually wasn't bad. I fed them in the trailer the night before, and so they went up in there, and then I had a post that's bolted to a cinder block, which I should have put on the back side of the door, and I didn't. And so when they got into the trailer that morning, I couldn't just close the door. And then, of course, they realized what was going on, and they all bailed. And then it took a little bit to get them to go back in, but they finally did go back in, and then it was nice and easy to just.
So here's why this went well if you raise sheep. The rams got moved to my property from the pasture next door, I don't know, a month or two ago, in October.
Yeah.
So
it's been a while.
It's been a while, and they've been rotating through here they've done 2 rotations through here, I think.
Almost 2 complete
rotations. And that meant that they were seeing us out and about on our property and becoming more familiar with us. They were separated from their moms, who are spooked a little bit up in that upper pasture. And they're becoming more friendly with us, but they'll, especially when they're raising babies, they keep the babies away like we're evil or something.
Yeah.
Because I guess we take them to the processor. And so at first they were really spooked by us, but over time they're like, that guy brings me treats. Yeah. And they started getting more and more friendly, which then had them acclimated over those months to, okay, wherever he puts the treats, we eat the treats. And so had we tried to get them to the processor within a week or 2 of moving them in October, it would have been way harder because they were spooked from having moved from the other pasture. So the lesson there is actually rotating the ones that are going to go through here a couple times like that makes it easier to load them. Or we have to have a situation over there where they're going into an enclosed place to eat.
Yeah, and it's like when we first moved them over here, they found a rock. And that was their rock for a day and a half.
They stayed on the rock looking suspiciously at us.
The only reason they would leave that rock is if you got too close to them. And then they would make this circle around a bunch of brush and trees and circle back around to that rock. And then it took a couple of days before they would actually come eat when I would feed them at night. And then gradually we kind of worked up to, okay, I'm going to put the food in the bowl. You know what it is. You know you like it. And if you want it, you can come get it while I'm standing here. And 3 of them were like, fine, we do this under protest. The 4th one was like, I'm going to sneak around behind the other 3 and half crawl in between 2 of them to sneak up to the bowl.
Yeah, The one with black lips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's always been the most timid of them. He was one I didn't. He was a triplet. He was the one from the triplets that we actually augmented his milk a little bit the first 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and that meant we caught him. And I think it just made him more wary of it because there was a lot of chasing him around the paddock to catch him to then give him milk. It's like, dude, if you just come up to the bottle, you'd be fine. And I can tell you're not getting. Like he was like, I'm hungry. Yeah, and then his brother and sister would always push him off. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that was good. And then I went to the processor with Tactical, which is a 3-hour round trip. And from a farm man-hour investment standpoint, 2 people driving sheep to the processor does not make sense at all, because that's 6 man-hours at that point. So there's 3 man-hours just to deliver the animals to the processor. And the ones that we sell, we are having them processed at a processor because my cuts are not as nice as their cuts. And so I want to make sure that our customers are getting good, like nice, clean chops and all of that. And I'm not really set up with a saw to do the chops like they do them there. So we went to the processor, and I ended up going in and talking to the lady who I've been talking to on the phone a lot. And we just hit it off. It was great. We had a good time talking. I wanted to make sure all the cut sheets were clear, because this is the first batch of customer cut sheets we've done. Before, I was doing whole lamb, half lamb, and quarter lamb. And I will never do quarter lamb ever again as long as I live, because you're like, which quarter? If you do a whole leg, that's a quarter of the lamb, basically.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, well, you get the ground and the chops, and you get the butt. That's kind of how that works out. And it just, in a cow, that can make more sense because you're cutting multiple things up because it's bigger. But, it's like, here's your 5 pounds of meat. Yay.
Yeah.
Or 10 if you're lucky. Because your take home for a typical lamb is going to be, for a whole lamb, is 25 to 40 pounds of meat is what I think, from the ones we're raised on pasture and not on grain.
I brought a stick back.
Yes, you should say that into the mic, though, if you're going to talk on the live stream. So we're just doing half and whole lambs now, and that means you can choose your cuts, right? So then I had people fill out their cut sheets, and I wanted to make sure they were just, done the way they needed to be done. And I wanted to ask them if they would please let me have the balls, because not all processors will let you have the balls. And so then we had a very amusing discussion. And there was another guy in there waiting to pick up his meat about hairy balls that I wanted for my dogs. And she's like, well, only one of our guys will do that, and the other one will not let you keep the balls because whatever. I think he doesn't want to mess with skinning them or whatever. And I was like, well, I don't need the skin on, because we're going to literally feed them to the dogs, and the dogs don't care. So then the guy walked out in his like plastic apron, and I'm like, I'm okay with hairy balls. And he just started laughing so hard. But it was like, if my customers don't want them, I'll take them, because that's just extra, like, we've raised this meat, we might as well feed it to the animals taking care of the animals, right? So it was just kind of, it's always funny at the butcher how your conversations go, and it's like, do you want the liver? Do you know what the cheapest protein out there is? No, I don't, Andy. What do you got for me? I feel like this is a dad joke in the making, So speaking of dogs, we started making kefir for the dogs, which is milk kefir, deer balls, and they're under $1. Wait, I heard that joke on Jack's show.
I've seen that before.
So we started making dairy kefir for my dogs, because I have aging dogs with like, they're appearing to have some joint problems. And Joel Riles from Fortress Canine mentioned that milk kefir can help that. And what that does is get their gut biome back better. And if you think about it, like I actually feed them dry food, and Cece's had a few surgeries, and so her gut biome might be just messed up by antibiotics as mine, right? Was when I had pneumonia, and I was like on a whole regimen about getting myself back. So it took me a while to get the kefir grains, but I got them, and I started reading, because I thought it was actual grains. Like, people made it sound like it's not gluten-free and blah, blah, blah. And it's based on what I read, it's these crystals that form on cactus in Mexico. that was put in with the milk, and then it's a combination of yeast and lactobacillus and other things. And that's, not gluten. So I don't know where that comes from. If somebody knows, let me know, because I'm just starting to go down the path of learning more about it. So I started feeding my dogs kefir, and then one of our livestock guardian dogs has been he looks like his joints hurt. Miles does sometimes. Like he looks a little sore, and I'm like, well, let's give it to them too. And it turns out when you start making kefir, by the way, thank you for sending me the kefir grains, Tolberts. When you start making milk kefir, you start making a lot of it. So now we have way more milk kefir than the dogs are eating. And I started, I have dog kefir and human kefir in the fridge, but I'll show you guys how we make it at some point on one of my Friday shorts coming from the kitchen. I've been my goal is at least twice a month to make a Friday video about something in the kitchen. Last week, it was how I make my breakfast sausage. We're actually going live at 4. Dawn Gorham and I are, and we're going to just cook for our homegrown cooking show. I'm going to do a beef heart, and I was supposed to have the beef tongue already simmering right now, but I'll be cooking a tongue and a heart for dinner. Are you coming to dinner?
Beef tongue, I'll be there.
Yeah. It might be 7 o'clock if I get too late of a start. So
okay,
yeah, but
I'm
I'm
fine with eating 7, 8, 9.
I think Eversouls are coming over to just visit tonight. So
nice.
Yeah. Mona says kefir's like another pet. Well, it's really cool because I had just a few kefir grains.
Oh.
I call them rocks. I don't know why. Where did that come from? Is this brain fog? What is that? Anyway, so I had a few kefir grains, and now I have almost half a cup. And so now I'm ready to give kefir grains away. So Eversoul, so Steve was wanting to use them. He bought some online. They didn't work for him, and he never followed it up. And then they've been busy finishing their house that they're moving into in just a few weeks.
I think he was doing the water and you're doing the milk, so I don't know. Are they different?
They're different.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and maybe when I read about the cactus, those are the water ones. I don't even know, but I thought I was reading about milk kefir. But the problem is search engines are now using AI to give you feedback, and then you have to drill down on the sources, and sometimes they mix stuff up. So if you read that summary you cannot trust the AI summary in search engines.
Yeah.
Just know that.
Yeah.
But they actually do shortcut you. So, that's coming. Milk kefir grains got tossed. I couldn't keep up with it. Well, I feel like I can just pop them in the freezer or the fridge if I don't want to keep up with it. And, with the dogs eating, a half cup each, quarter cup to half cup each every day, I'm going through my half gallon of milk. So my half gallon of milk, I take the cream off for me, and then I make kefir out of the rest. I feed that to the dogs. I take some every morning now too, just to see if my gut biome gets better, because I've been messed up since I was so sick in August. And I'm like, well, might as well put it in and see how that works. Yeah. And in theory, they've eaten all the sugars out, or a lot of the sugars out of there. So
you have fun with that. I will not be trying that.
Yeah, I know. Well, you could try it this weekend and see if it makes you sick.
That's true. I do have a couple days to recover from it.
I could make it with goat's milk for you too, and so it'd be a different protein.
I'm not sure if that matters. But...
Yeah. But your gut bacteria is probably out of whack.
Probably.
And that can heal a lot of things. So it's just, I like fermenting stuff. I'm going to do another fermentation webinar this year. So, and we're doing a power pantry webinar again. Those are coming up. I'll be busting that out, guys. So the webinar schedule, with the exception of his cast iron one in February, is scheduled after this show. I'll get that scheduled with him, and then we'll have the schedule out through April. I wanted to go for the whole year, but then I realized that then I can't add fun stuff as easily. So I'm doing 3 to 4 months at a time.
You mean stuff may change?
Yeah.
And you may want to add something new?
Yeah. Well, I may have a really
more interesting.
No, it's just because other things come up. Like Noster is about to explode, I think, and I think we want to have a podcasting 2.0 and Noster presentation. And I'm talking to somebody about that. We may just slide that one in because it's really good at this time of year. I think it'd be good to tap into Noster if you haven't already. Carrie says, today's the annual reporting of all our jar candles. We have a few hundred that we remake to keep from buying them randomly. I get to pick good non-bakery scents too. Oh, cool. That sounds fun. That's a great practice. I don't make jar candles and I don't use candles very much. I have a jar candle that I was given for Christmas that we will use on Sunday dinner. But yeah.
I actually tried making a candle once.
Yeah.
Just off of what I briefly read or seen on YouTube, and it was just bacon fat and I used what I use? I think a tightly rolled up piece of paper towel as the wick. It worked. Produced a little more smoke than I wanted to.
Yeah, or you could use paraffin or beeswax and actual wicks, and then and a little essential oil.
Yeah, but I happen to have.
And you don't have to put food coloring in it.
But I don't care about what it looks
Oh, I
like.
know, exactly.
I happen to have a little bit of bacon fat left over.
Let me just say,
too much, but
jar candles are a great Christmas, like handmade Christmas gift idea that we could have totally talked about in December. And there's something you could have totally done last minute. Just saying.
I could still do that last minute.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna add it to your white elephant gift?
I could.
Yeah, we're doing Holler Neighbors are doing a white elephant this Sunday, and it took us that long to get our stuff together on the gifts this year. We were
so some of us.
Yeah. Tactical and I we're the last holdouts. None of us were ready in time for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
in years past, I've been the last one holding everything up. I was the first one this time.
Yeah, good for you.
What happened?
Yeah. Yeah, Carrie says we remelt the jar lefters, add paraffin to the mix, and then rewick and pour the new mix. Exactly. That's brilliant. I get those from time to time. I'll get a jar candle from Michael's or Hobby Lobby. They have them on sale. And then the jars themselves have a really nice gasket in the top, and then I'll clean them up really nice. So I get a scent that's not annoying and going to cling forever. And then use them, like I store baking soda so I can buy it in bulk and then put it in those jars. Those make really good dry goods storage too. But I could totally just keep those jars and redo them. But I figure we go through maybe 3 jar candles a year here. It's not a ton. And more when it's actually more likely in the summer out under Taj Mahal that candles will be going than in the house, unless Mama Sauce is here.
I don't remember the last time I had a candle burning in the house.
Yeah, I like burning candles. I just forget. I forget that I like it, and then I'll go through phases of liking it, and then I'll go through phases. Yeah. I think also with the dining room table no longer being here because we just eat at this bar that I'm sitting at, or we eat on our chairs, that you don't like have a candle in the middle of table for dinner. Like that's my one regret with getting rid of the table, but there just wasn't space in my house for that table. And the round table that's outside, I'm going to repaint it. And then that table is going to become a 2-person table. So like 2 people can eat at the table in here.
Well, if you ever want to revisit your table, I know where it's at.
I know. Nighthawk inherited my table. But it's just so big. If I get another table in here, it'll be more like the size of the one at base camp, but not tall. Because that one's like that square shape. You can fit 4 people. It's a much smaller footprint. And that would work well. So.
It is also kind of cool sitting at the higher one with the bar stool length seats.
I have a story to tell you that's going to make you laugh.
Okay.
So, we closed down the swim spa, right, and put over the cover on the swim spa. We put plywood and then a tarp.
I know about the plywood and the tarp
because they were saying 8 inches of snow, which is quite a lot of weight on something that's basically just foam and has no structure. And I didn't want it to cave in.
I'm disappointed that we didn't get the 8 inches.
Well, we might still sometime this winter. There's another snowstorm after the one they say might come this weekend that might not come this weekend.
Oh, good.
Yeah, last I looked, I was like, it might not snow. That would be really cool. So we had that so that the snow weight wouldn't cave in the $1,500 cover, and then I'd have to buy another $1,500 cover, right? That'd be bad news. When I build the greenhouse house over that, guys, I'm not going to have to do that anymore. So that's kind of cool. And we used a billboard tarp. So it was a nice, strong tarp. It worked great. The only problem is I wasn't going to go take that stuff all off every day and go swimming and then put it all back on. So we finally got it removed. So Monday, I'm like, I think we're out of the risk for snow by the end of the day Monday. It snowed all day Monday. Was it Monday that it snowed all day? Yeah.
If it did, I didn't see any of it.
Okay. I think it snowed into Monday on and off all day. And it was Tuesday that I had on my 3 things swim.
Mm-hmm.
But I had turned the swim spa down to 55 degrees the week before because we were supposed to get ice that week before, and then it just never manifested. So Tactical helped me take it all apart, and I look at it, no power. And he goes to the breaker, and he's like, oh, breaker flipped. And he flipped it on, it went on. And I'm like, well, I was waiting for it to tell me what the temperature was, and it didn't tell me, but it certainly wasn't frozen. So I was like, well, that's cool. Because it was just like, don't touch it. And then the breaker blew again. And the GFI breaker had broken. And I called the spa store and I was like, hey, it was really cold. And then this, and I just closed it back up, called the spa store, made an appointment for the dude to come out. He came out Wednesday. And on spec, we got a breaker and just switched it out because I didn't know if the breaker was broken or not. And that fixed the problem. So it was the GFI breaker had gone bad. And then the guy was on his way and I was like, well, we figured out what the problem was. But since I was like, but I didn't cancel, so I'll pay you. And can you just look at it and see if while it was 18 degrees last night, anything inside got messed up? Nothing did.
Good.
So then guess what I did Wednesday?
You swam?
No, it was Thursday. Thursday.
You swam?
So Wednesday, I turned it up and it takes like 1 hour per 1 degree. I put on my swimming suit and there's ice on the ground, guys. I put on my swimming suit and I walked outside my swimming suit down to the swim spa, took the cover off, out in my swimming suit in 28-degree weather, got in, swam, and then this was the hard part. I got back out and I was freezing. I was so sopping wet going up the hill in my sandals. So I had a very cold swim this week.
It was invigorating though.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back in today and then we'll see.
So you're going to swim first thing Tuesday morning then?
Saturday, we're closing it back up for snow.
What snow?
If we get snow, it's possible we'll get snow or ice on Sunday.
Okay.
Last time I looked at the forecast.
Okay.
And I don't think we will, but because we might, I'm going to close it up. And it needs to be closed up before I go to California anyway, just in case that next snowstorm turns into a snowstorm. And I don't want you guys to have to close it up when I'm not here. So in advance of my trip to California, it's getting, prepared for winter.
Oh, so it's getting really cold that early next week and you're leaving.
I'm leaving after the cold. I leave Wednesday.
Oh,
yeah.
So you will get experience.
So it's like
cold
brutal, leave. Yeah, but I'm actually really glad because when Tactical has to keep stuff together here by himself, he's keeping his house heated and my house heated with the wood. Now I know I have the mini split that we can turn on, but then it's like drip the faucets, and I'm the one who's keeping my eye on the app for if it goes above, and like I'll be in California, dude, like the utility closet's down to 36 degrees, so. And then if the power goes out, everything's harder. So I'm actually really glad I get to be here for that, even though I don't like it when it's cold like that.
See, but you got to worry about dripping the faucets. I'm just training the system come Sunday.
Yeah.
So I got to worry about dripping
we'll
the faucets. I'm just going to have no running water for the next several days.
I took my YoLink sensors out of my freezers, and I have one in the pump house, one in the prepper pantry, and one in the utility closet near the water. Like near the water pipes. And that's how I'm keeping track of it. And then my phone yells at me and sends me a text message if they go below 36, which is not, and they always do it at 3 a.m, by the way. So I've been getting up early a lot when they go below 36. It's like, well, but below 36 at 3 a.m. is not terrible because unless it's 9 degrees outside, you're not going to go below 32. But that piece of technology I really like because before we had that capacity here, because I've been here almost 20 years, I used to worry about the pump house at night. And it's way down there. And the only way to go see the temperature down there is to get on your 2 little legs and go down the hill in the middle of the night.
You saying you don't like taking strolls in the middle of the night when it's cold?
No, I prefer being in bed by the fire, staying warm. It's really nice. So, got my seed order in for the gardens, and it was $60 because actually last year I didn't really buy seeds. I bought a couple of seeds. I have a lot of saved seeds. This year I'm resetting the green beans that I grow. So I got a bunch of those, and then some starts with an A. Fennel does not start with an A. Anyway, I got a different kind of fennel to try and some other stuff. But the square feet of garden that I'm doing this year is a lot smaller than last year. And so it's just a lot less seeds to get. Want to give him the mic? Tactical has returned from the pasture, and I'm just going to ask him to tell me how things are going. But Nighthawk put the mic on his beard hairs and was like following the mic with his beard hairs. So what's up at the pasture?
So when I went over there, out of the two that were just born, one of them was laying right next to mom. The other one was like 2-3 feet away. So I got that one to get up. Mom got up, and then they both started doing child mom things. And
Has she passed the placenta?
I don't know. I didn't really look.
Oh, you should have looked for that.
I should have, but I didn't. And then I walked over to check on the other two, and they're actually both following mom around pretty well. The one had its head up, which is good, but its ears are still down, so I don't think it's really content with life yet.
Yeah. Did you see them actually nursing those two new ones, or are they just trying to nurse?
So the ones that were born this morning both nursed while I was there, and then when I walked back over towards Amy, the other two, I'm pretty sure both were latched on and getting.
Were their tails?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
One
good.
of them I couldn't really see because it was behind a tree, but.
Yeah, the big one's the one who is stupid.
Yeah.
Nipple is here. He's up here. I'm like, just a little lower. And then I put his head lower, and he's like, don't touch me. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get too close to him because, like, I didn't want her to move.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both in the right place, so I was just like, I'm gonna call that good for now.
So you had a bowl of stew yesterday.
Yeah.
For breakfast. I have been making that stew for 4 weeks.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a total pottage situation where I made stew, and then there was like 1 cup of stew left, and I made another stew, and I put the cup in, and it started as chicken stew and ended as lamb stew.
Yeah.
How was it?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's like these people that are like, I don't like leftovers. And it's like, you're not doing leftovers right.
Yeah.
Because that's one of those, every time you repurpose it into something else, it gets better.
Yep. I like to actually finish the pottage, but there are soups that have been going for like 50 to 100 years and other like that they're famous for starting with what's left and going on to what's next. And we call that pottage. Somebody asked about who knitted your hat.
I don't know.
Patricia did. Trish.
Oh. She actually knitted it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
She
didn't
knitted
realize-
all 3 of them. She sent us a hat each.
I didn't realize she was the one that actually knitted it.
Yeah.
I know that's where it came from.
Yeah. She mailed them to us to keep warm, which is pretty cool. Yeah. We love these hats. Like both rednecks looked at them a little skeptically at first because they're made with such large thread. You guys were like, in the wind, will it work? And then I've noticed that he's had it on his head a lot.
It's not very good on the 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
But
I put this on and then I put mine over the top of it because this gets my ears. But yeah.
But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's a great hat. Anyway, what's your thoughts on bone broth?
I like it.
So he will drink bone broth every day if you hand it to him, but if you ask him if he wants it, he will say no. Why is that?
Because it's always a situation where you're like, do you want bone broth? As I'm walking out the door to go do something that's going to take me an hour. And it's like, no, I'm not waiting for 20 minutes while you make bone broth.
It takes like 3 minutes to heat up on the stove, but.
Still too long.
So guys, I got a question for both of you. When are you going to process rabbits? Nighthawk, you want to answer?
Either today or tomorrow morning.
How do you want to do it? When do you want to do it?
Probably tomorrow morning. That way we can take them off feed and water for tonight, so they're a little cleaner. Because I think you want to keep at least 1 or 2 of them for meat this time, right?
4 to 6.
Okay, 4 to 6 for meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be much easier if they haven't had water or yeah.
So we need to take
Food-
them off
food or
water
water.
after this. And then the only one that we can't really do that with is the one that's being culled. And that's okay. We'll just keep him for dogs. So take the babies off food and water. And then the one with the tooth problem is going to go too.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we need to put a nesting box with that one.
Okay.
Okay. Got it. Today we showed Base Camp to a community member who heard that it was available and she's going to rent it. And so I'm actually really happy about this because having community members in Base Camp means that they're like copacetic with the lifestyle here. They like to help with, the homestead stuff. And it's nice to have somebody who's not like, what do you mean you're just going to leave the sheep in the pasture to give birth or whatever, which is where they want to give birth. So I'm pretty excited about it. And yeah, so for those of you who were hoping it was going to be an Airbnb for the Living Free in Tennessee Spring Workshop in April, sorry, somebody's renting it. Sorry, not sorry. It's really cool too because it comes with a chicken coop, but not chickens, so she can have chickens if she wants chickens. And oh, Tigger was looking for water. Let's see. How are we going to split the flock now that everybody's at the processor? Because we wanted to bring the ram over here, right?
Yeah, the ram needs to come over here. And at this point, I've got 2 lists of they're not coming over here or they can come over here.
Amy can come over here.
Amy and Allie were both on that list, and it was like, if they have not given birth, I don't want to bring them over here. So now Amy and Allie have both given birth. Bruni has not.
Yeah. The cat that was behind me is Tigger. He is 18 years old and not doing great, but not in pain. So we just let him old around the house. That's what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
He's awake for approximately half an hour a day. And then he sleeps on his heating pad most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my thought is anybody who has boys only as babies comes over with the ram so that we don't have an incident with too young of sheep being bred by the ram.
Yeah. And my thought also is once the rams are weaned, they're all coming
over here. Yeah.
And
Gorham Homestead, welcome.
My thought process behind the ones that can come over here is, Amy, Allie, and Bruni are all experienced enough that I don't worry as much about them getting pregnant back to back like that. So it's less of a risk. Like Cloudy, who first time mom, Khaki first time mom. I definitely want them to have a break in between.
Yeah, so my thought is one of the females with a male baby comes over. One. with him. And the minute we can wean the boys over there and bring them over, she goes back.
Yeah.
And then we don't have that kind of exposure. And I think I'd like to order a ram apron for him too, which may or may not work, but just in case.
Okay.
I mean, he's friendly enough. I think I can get it on him. I don't know that it'll stay on him.
Okay.
Are you going to video it?
I don't know.
Question from my wife, who loves listening to you with me, says, "You're a great singer. Have you posted the lyrics of that closing song anywhere?" I don't think I have, but that's a good idea. I should start releasing those songs with lyrics and the story behind it. That song is called Wolf, and the band that I was in at the time is called Sauce. It was my band in Portland, Oregon. And I sang that song live at Self-Reliance Festival once. That was fun. But yeah, that's it's called Wolf. And I can look on the website, sauceband.com, to see if I ever posted the lyrics. I don't think I did. So if you go to that site, if it still exists, I haven't done anything with it in 20 years. So, or maybe 15, 16 years. So, don't try to buy the CD from the site. If you want to buy the CD, let me know. I have always had the intention of putting more of those songs out for sale. Only one song from that album is up on iTunes, and it's called Tripped Out. So yeah. And then through that song, I learned how to release a single, and I've just never done the work to do the album. If somebody wants to do the work for me, let me know. I have all of the audio files. So we are selling lamb quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have 10 available for October, assuming they all live, which if they don't and somebody buys one, I'll just refund their money if that happens. But yeah, they're like half sold now. What? It's microphone. We need a third mic, apparently.
If you have 10 people and say one doesn't make it, would you give them the option to forward it to your next batch?
Oh, yeah,
or would
sure.
you just refund them?
No, I would give them the option to forward it to the next batch. I believe we've got 9 born right now and 2 more giving birth. So we don't know how many of these will make it through the first 6 weeks of life, but typically when they've made it through a week, they usually do fine. We haven't actually lost a lot of lambs later. It's that first week. And so from this batch that was born today, we may still lose one in the next week, and we won't know until we know. But I actually think we're going to end up with at least 12 total lambs, which is why I listed 10 for sale. And then that gives us the extras for us. But I kind of like to get 2 at a time out of the batches so that the freezer's not completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That's all he has to say is yeah. So that's it's interesting because when I've sold lamb in the past, like it sells quickly, but I've only had 1 or 2 available, and it's not that quickly. And this time it's like all of a sudden people are really, I think it's because we have customers who are like, oh no, that's really good. So I'll probably start, I was just writing, in my journal today, I was like, I should have a lamb, like when you buy a lamb, here's like an automated email that tells you all of the whole process of how this works. And you can I'll be putting a form for the cut sheet up on my website this weekend for those of you who bought them, so you can choose your cuts. And then I have them in a spreadsheet for the processor, but also like how the process works, how much meat usually comes out of the lamb. But the thing is, I've never measured that until this batch of lambs that are at the processor right now. So I know what their live weight was. I know what their hanging weight was. And when I pick up the meat, I can find out what the end result was for the different lambs. And then there's a better idea of how much meat you're getting, because a half a lamb sounds like a lot of meat, but you're talking 10 to 20 pounds of meat, which it's a decent amount of meat, but it's not like I'm overwhelmed. Like with a cow, when you get half a cow, you're getting like 150 pounds of meat or something.
Yeah.
Which is a totally different scale. So yeah.
This is like getting a really small deer.
Yeah. So saucepan.com has a trio of guys with a cover band. Really? I'm surprised. Did I let that go? Now I'm curious. Oh, I guess I let my domain go.
Oops.
Oops. That's fine. They're actually using it. So they were probably really stoked they could get that domain name. Anyway, never mind. Saucepan.com doesn't exist. I probably got rid of it because I was like, I'm never going to do anything with that. So, or I accidentally let it expire.
Yeah.
I don't think I did though. I guess I made, I make decisions like that sometimes and I don't remember I made them. So that's interesting. I just found out on the live that my website for my band's gone. Okay. I still have the website somewhere on a server. That's actually hilarious. Okay. So is that everything? Yeah, that's everything for today. Do you guys have any questions or no? It doesn't look like you do. Thanks for joining our live stream. We're going to be checking on lambs every hour until sunset, and then we're going to be worried about them after sunset because we worry too much about the baby lambs. Even though we say we're going to do survival of the fittest, we still worry about the lambs. We still help them out. Like I helped with the birth today. And I just can't think, I mean, I wouldn't have let that, even if it was a stillborn, I wouldn't have let that stand because that's just pain. And we don't do that. So, yeah. But that, I would say that was the hardest birth I've seen her have.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was hard this time. Well, that first ram was big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, he's big. And then he kept going too high for the nipple. I'm like, because you're too tall. You need to be shorter. Anyway, thanks for joining the show, guys. If you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. Two, consider becoming a member. The member webinar this month is Sean Mills on building your personal solar blueprint. It's Sunday at 3 p.m. Find out more at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.